But we thank you all for coming. Marl Koelsch is our moderator. Mark and I have been putting these on for 14 years now. We do this to educate you people in the community. This has nothing to do with any affiliated group or any city council stuff. This is all between Mark and I put this on so that you know who you're going to vote for and why. Tonight we're really fortunate we have Lisa Alexander and Mike Karnofski running for Kelso City Council. If you have questions, there's cards at the back table. If you fill them out, and you have to hand them to me, and I'll make sure that Mark gets them. We don't want anybody sitting here hollering and hooping and raising Cain with the candidates. This is a 1-hour process. Mark has got some great questions, and we've already got several questions that were presented to us. So with that, I'll sit down, and to my dismay, I'll have to shut up for the rest of the night. And we'll let Mark take over from here.
Well, first of all, we all know that he's not going to shut up for the entire night. But now that that is out of the way, just to review the format with everybody, we held a coin toss at the beginning. Lisa Alexander won the coin toss, and you have whoever wins the toss can choose the order for opening or closing. She chose to go second for closing. Mr. Karnofski chose to go first for opening. The candidate going first for the opening will have 3 minutes to give opening remarks, and then the opponent will also have 3 minutes for their opening remarks. Then we'll get into questions. The first person will answer first for that question. The second person will answer. They'll each have 3 minutes to answer the question, then up to 2 minutes for rebuttal. As I explained to the candidates, they're not required to use their full 2 minutes for rebuttal. Sometimes people like to embellish and go through. Other times there really is good information, and it's important that they have the time. As Ken said, we've been working on this format for a while. We try and make sure there's enough time for people to adequately answer questions and that we can get to every question that we can through the evening. As Ken indicated, there are cards in the back of the room. Feel free to fill out questions and bring them up to Ken. He'll present them to me. As moderator, I can tell you you'll have a much better chance of having your question answered if it's not a political statement. We're here to listen to the candidate speak, not to hear somebody else's political opinion. So make sure it's actually a question. If I receive several questions that are similar, I may paraphrase to kind of lump them together to get that topic covered. But with that, I think we'll go through. Everybody, I think we checked. You can see Ken. He's our timekeeper. He'll keep tabs, and we'll go through that. With that, opening statements. I believe Mr. Karnofski is first.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for putting this on, Ken. It's nice to see familiar faces out there. Wish there were a few more faces, but thank you all for showing up. I think when you're looking for a candidate for office and you're considering a candidate for office, 3 things that you need to consider. You need to consider enthusiasm, dedication, and experience. I believe I bring all those to this race for the council for Kelso. I'm committed. I'm committed to this race, and I'm enthusiastic about this race. I wouldn't be in if I wasn't enthusiastic. I'm enthusiastic about Kelso. I grew up in Kelso, spent some time away from Kelso, had the opportunity to move back. Kelso's a great place. Kelso's had a good future. Kelso can have a great future. And I'm dedicated. I'm dedicated to Kelso, whether it was coaching youth sports, working on the county park board, working on the Kelso Park Board for 26 years, involved in Kelso activities, working with Rotary on the duck race, working at the Rotary Food Wagon, working on Day of Caring with United Way. So I am dedicated to Kelso and making Kelso a better place. But I'm also experienced. I spent 37 years working at Weyerhaeuser in a variety of engineering and management positions. Gave me a good understanding of the private sector, also gave me a good understanding of the activities of a counselor. I worked with 37 local, state, and federal agencies. I got to see government from the private sector side. I saw what good government was from the private sector side. I also was responsible for utilities there, which gave me an understanding of utilities. I spent 6 years as a county commissioner. That gave me a good opportunity to see how government can function and how good government can function. And presently, I'm the Public Works Director at the City of Woodland. And that gives me another opportunity to see how government can function. As a Public Works Director at the City of Wood, I'm responsible for streets, for parks, for the sewer, and for the water. So I've learned a lot about those, and as a city councilor, you don't manage those, but you set policy and you work on them, and I certainly am able to set policy and to work on them. So I think the combination that I bring for enthusiasm, dedication, and experience makes me the best candidate for this position.
Thank you. Opening statement, Lisa Alexander.
Hi. First of all, I'm a lifelong resident of Kelso. I was raised in Kelso. My children were raised in Kelso, and we're helping to raise our grandchildren in Kelso. I went to Kelso schools. My kids went to Kelso schools. My grandkids are going to Kelso schools. Now, I did not graduate, but I did go back in 1998 and get my GED. And then I went back in 2006, got 2 degrees, one in business, retail management, and business management, and customer service as well. So I went back, after 20 years out, I went back and got my degrees. I have spent the last 10 years doing childcare for low-income families. And I'm running because I think Kelso needs a change. We need fresh ideas. We need to work on a safer community for our children, grandchildren. We need better streets. We need sidewalks. We need to make sure that the public is safe and our children are safe getting to and from school. We need to work together between the council and the community. They need to get together. We need to be as one to make our community a better place. I want to do more for Kelso. Kelso has my heart. I've always been an avid volunteer for Kelso. I do Highlander Festival. I've done a safe and free Halloween. I do park cleanups. I have helped with the South Neighborhood Association do cleanups in downtown. I've helped with Barnes School, putting in their school garden. I'm out everywhere in Kelso. I believe that I can be what Kelso needs. Again, fresh ideas, and a new perspective, a new way of looking at things. So that's me.
Thank you. Start on our questions. First question will be directed first at Mr. Karnofski. Do you have a plan you want to work on for helping Kelso businesses grow?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of underutilized assets in Kelso. Certainly the downtown is a significantly underutilized asset. I remember growing up in West Kelso, and West Kelso at that time was a community of its own. And you look at what has been done in West Kelso. We need to continue to look at to do something to the main downtown of Kelso. I think growing up there and looking at some of the people I knew grew up there and lived there a long time. There was a penny store, there was 2 drug stores, there was a grocery store there, and we need to do a revitalization of that. We need to be able to work with the businesses down there, work at facade activities, help them to be successful. We had a great barbecue place downtown that couldn't make it. So you need to talk to the businesses, see what they need, but the other thing we need to do is we need to increase our tax base for Kelso, and that's key to economic development. Certainly I've had significant experience, 20 years working with Cowlitz Economic Development Council, prior to that working with Weyerhaeuser on bringing activities that would help economic development. So work with the businesses, increase the tax base, and the other thing is looking at activities that can bring people downtown, looking at putting in bike paths, looking at putting in bike stands. There's an opportunity to improve the park at the river, and the city of Kelso does own property off of Mill Street that you could use to as riverfront activities, and then we need to get those people downtown. So there's a variety of things, but it's really working with the businesses, seeing what we can do to improve downtown.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Alexander, would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm pretty,
Okay.
well, Kelso's dying. I've watched it over through the years. We definitely need economic development downtown. We need it all through Kelso. We need to get new businesses downtown. We need to find out and talk to the businesses that have left and find out why. What could we have done different to keep those businesses? What have we done? What could be the ones that are there? What can we do to help them stay? There are programs right now that put dampers on the businesses that they want to improve. There are color codes that need to be redone because business wants to redo themselves. They shouldn't need to worry about what color or if the city is going to say yes or no to a certain color downtown. They should be able to, you should be able to promote their businesses, and they need to have pride in their businesses, and we need to find out why. Where's their pride? Because it's always been Kelso's pride, and we have Anchor Point. We have a possibility of industry down at Anchor Point. It's unused land that needs industry. And in the future, there could be a small port in Kelso if that industry is done right. We have Kelso Village. It is waiting. It is just waiting for a developer to come in. We need to make we need to give more, we need to make it easier for businesses to streamline in. The permitting process has just gotten to the point where, businesses, they try to come in, but it takes so much effort to come in that, it's not worth the effort anymore. It's really sad. And I was raised in South Kelso, so I've watched this town. And I want to see it back. I want to see it revitalized. I want to see a vibrant downtown again. I want to see people downtown. I want to see businesses open. I want to see events downtown again. We had them, but they're gone. We need to bring them back. We need reasons for people to want to go downtown. And that's how I see it.
Thank you. Mr. Karnofski, any additional words or rebuttal?
Nope.
Ms. Alexander, any additional time you'd like on that question?
I have a little bit. When talking about the Riverfront Park, the name of it is Camellia Summers Park. It is a green space. It is a Kelso park. But we have tried for years to get access to that park, and Burlington Northern will not allow us even a walking path over the railroad tracks. Due to the drug use down there, the riverfront is dangerous. I mean, there's needles everywhere down there, and it's going to take a lot to make it accessible and a lot of cleanup to make it usable again. Would I love it? I've tried for years to work through that because we really, really have a beautiful area right there that could be well used. If we can just work well with the railroad and get permission to go use it again.
Okay, thank you. Second question will be directed first at Mrs. Alexander. Do you support locating low barrier shelters in Kelso?
I do not support low barrier shelters. I believe shelters are needed, yes. I believe people need homes. I believe they need to have a place to go and lay their head. But the shelter needs rules, regulations. We need to put our elderly and our children and families and even our mentally handicapped people first over the addicts, which is what a low barrier 90% of uses, not always. I was there at Love Overwhelming. I helped feed the homeless. I was there in the snow when they were locked out of their shelter because it was closed while they were freezing, and I was serving food, watching them with the snow on them, and cried because nobody should be left out in the snow. There should be nobody. We need to work on getting them treatment. So instead of low barrier and no barrier is what Love Overwhelming was a no barrier. There was no rules. They couldn't enforce them, and it tore up an entire section of Kelso. I want to see these people helped. I want to see these addicts get help, but they need inpatient treatment centers, not more enabling.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Karnofski?
So the homeless problem is a difficult problem. You need a variety of methods to reach out to the homeless. Ms. Alexander talked about the people who were in Love Overwhelming. Love Overwhelming wasn't successful. It was a disaster for the community, but those people that were in Love Overwhelming, they needed a place to go, and people need a place to go. Somehow you need to reach out to the homeless, and we still have homeless in Kelso, we still have homeless in Longview. All you have to do is drive around, you see the people walking around. Last Saturday they had another food activity at the courthouse. There's still people who are homeless, and we need to reach out to those people. We need to help those people get the treatment they need. And so you need to figure out, how are you going to reach out to those people? How are you going to reach out to the families that need help? How are you going to reach out to the elderly that need help? And there were those people in Love Overwhelming. Mrs. Alexander was there. She saw that. If you don't have those variety of activities, those people will end up on the street, and we need to be able to reach out and help people get the support they need, get the treatment they need.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander, any additional comments or rebuttal?
Yes, Love Overwhelming did not help families. Families could not be there. The children were turned away. They were helping the addicts, the registered sex offenders, and there were mentally handicapped people all housed together. That was not a good situation at all. They need to be dealt with, each one as a different entity and each one separately. So there were no families, unfortunately. They were left out.
Thank you. Mr. Karnofski, any additional comments or rebuttal?
And again, it's not one answer. There's housing that's needed for families. There's housing that's needed for the elderly, because they do have different needs. There's housing that's needed short term. Some of the people that are in those activities, they just need some short term help. I think one of the days that I like the best as a commissioner, when I walked out and I talked to one of the residents of Love Overwhelming, and I said, "How's your day going?" And he said, "Today's a great day for me, because I got a job offer tomorrow, I'm going to work, and I got a place to stay tonight." So getting those kind of services to people is really important. You have to get people stabilized. Maybe they only need 1 or 2 nights, but still we need to be able to have resources that provide a variety of services to the homeless, so that ultimately they can get a stable life and they can find a house and a place to live and a job.
Thank you. Next question actually comes from the last City of Kelso council race. It was interesting that it came up. Fireworks. What is your position? This was directed first to Mr. Karnofski, for legal use and sale restrictions.
So I've had a lot of discussion. A lot of people have talked to me about fireworks. It's not a simple solution, because some people like shooting off fireworks. But I also know, living in my neighborhood and other neighborhoods, especially on the 4th of July, it's like a war zone out there with the amount of noise, the amount of trash that gets dumped on somebody else's property. And so I would support a firework ban, but it can't be unilateral to Kelso. It's got to be Kelso, Longview, and the county has to participate. And you can easily determine the county participation by using the urban section of the county. If you live out at the end of Rose Valley, up the Toutle, up the Lewis River, you want to shoot fireworks on your property, that's different. But if you live in the urban area, and if the city of Longview, the city of Kelso, and the county all agreed, because that's what it takes, I would support a fireworks ban, because the way our lines go, South Kelso is a good example of crooked lines down there, donut holes. West Longview is a similar example. West Kelso also, what's in the county, what's in the city. So it needs to be the urban area for a fireworks ban. All 3 entities would have to agree.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander, same question.
Fireworks are an issue. They are. But it's about respect. Would I Do I want them banned? No. That's part of our heritage, that's part of us celebrating our independence. More regulations, that would be wonderful if they could enforce the ones that are already in place. Right now, they're already unenforceable because, you know, they have to see somebody lighting them off in order to even give them a ticket. More regulations, yeah, that would be wonderful if it was possible. But ban them, no, because those people that are selling them, their profit goes mostly to our youth. They're for scholarships. They're to support the children that are our next generation. And they need those scholarships. They need that extra. But again, it comes down seriously down to respect, because if somebody's donating from mid-June till August, you know, that's disrespectful, and it is. But I mean, I have a cannon. I like to fire, so I would never say I want them banned, because I like to have the big booms. So, and my grandchildren, we love to celebrate with them. But if you could regulate and give people the sense that, you know, about respect and, you know, about your neighborhood and your community, and more respect for everybody and common sense. And common sense is almost out the window nowadays, and it's really sad to see that. But as for banning them, I would definitely say a no to banning.
Thank you. Additional comments or rebuttal?
No.
Any additional comments? Next question is even numbered, so it will be directed first at Mrs. Alexander. Describe the infrastructure needs of the city of Kelso and your view of how those needs should be met.
Well, right now, we are working on Minor Road. Once it's done, it's going to be wonderful. We do need better streets. If you have never been down U Street, I would definitely recommend going down U Street, as I lived at the corner of 7th and U all growing up, and I have never seen it look more beautiful than it does now. There is more work to be done. We need sidewalks. I've already said that once, but our children need to be safe going to and from school. There's very few sidewalks in and around the schools of Kelso. Our water system is one of the best in the state. We need to stay up on it, make sure that we don't have the same issues that came up in Kelso as it have in Longview. We need to make sure that our sewer and everything is up to top notch. And I know that, you know, I've been in council, attending lots of council meetings and making sure I'm up in there and know what's going on. And I know that there's reserve, and just in case, there's money there, just in case something happens. So Kelso has a wonderful infrastructure at this time. There is work that can be done, but it's well on its way to making a better place for our community.
Thank you. Mr. Karnofski, same question. Would you like me to repeat?
No. So there's a variety of needs in Kelso, but first of all, I think the city council needs to be commended. They do a great job of managing the resources they have. I've reviewed the financials with the city manager, and I think Kelso's in a pretty strong position to maintain what they have, but it's really about improving what we have to make it better. Sidewalks, in Woodland we put in a 1,400-foot sidewalk using community development block grants and also safe routes to schools. So that's another thing you need to look at. You need to be able to look at what you need to be able to understand the funding. There's also rural economic development funds. The streets, you need to keep up on your streets. You need to do your chip seal. You need to make sure that you have good drainage. As far as the sewer system, we're tied in to the Three Rivers Sewer Plant. That's a good operating plant. We do have periodic issues about sewer lines breaking in Kelso, but considering many of those sewer lines were built in the 20s and 30s, that just means you need to make sure you're keeping up with those maintenance activities. The water system, I think the water system is great. The rainy water system is an excellent system. In the city of Woodland, I'm responsible for operating the rainy water system and managing that. But one of the things you need to look at is that system needs periodic updating. And talking to the city manager, that's one thing we talked about is what are the big activities or what are the big potential expenses? Rainy water system is one potential expense that we're going to have to look at. But all of that is great, and infrastructure is great, but the other thing you need to have a viable city is having a place where people want to come, they want to bring their families, they want to stay, and that gets back to the other portion of infrastructure, and that's parks. And we need to continue to keep up our parks. Tam O'Shanter is a jewel. There's no question about Tam O'Shanter being a jewel. Over the weekend at the Highlander Festival, I was talking to somebody from out of town, and they commented on Tam O'Shanter, the Babe Ruth facility, the softball facility. Those are facilities that are, essentially world class for a city of our size. There's colleges, there's other cities that don't have that. But then we do have the opportunity to improve some of the other facilities, the Riverfront Park, the Coweeman Riverfront. Those are underutilized facilities that, again, will help make the city a better place, will help with bringing economic development into the city. And so there are a variety of infrastructure needs. You need to look at what you need. You need to look at the opportunity for funding. Those are both things that I have experience in.
Ms. Alexander, any additional comments or rebuttal?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Mr. Karnofski?
No.
Thank you. Next question is an odd-numbered question. That will go first to Mr. Karnofski. Would you support development at Anchor Point if the tenant was a methanol plant, a petroleum refinery, a coal terminal?
Those are all legal products in the state of Washington, in the United States. So I think you have to look at all those products. State of Washington has the strictest environmental regulations, so any product we choose. I think Anchor Point is a key to Kelso. Like I said, there's many underused assets at Kelso. Anchor Point is certainly one. I've been a supporter of Anchor Point for a long time. As a county commissioner, I was on the state Community Economic Revitalization Board. I helped get the executive director of the Community Economic Revitalization down here to look at Anchor Point. We ended up getting a significant grant from the Community Economic Revitalization Board. Also, as a commissioner, I supported that with rural economic development funds. I've continued to stay abreast of that, to work with the principals on that, to support that any way I could, to meet with potential clients as my work with CEDC, meeting with clients who are interested in locating in Cowlitz County or at Anchor Point. So, we need to find the right project, but any of those projects could be a potentially right project for Anchor Point.
Thank you. Same question, Mrs. Alexander. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Please.
Would you support development at Anchor Point if the tenant was a methanol plant, a petroleum refinery, a coal terminal?
And my answer would be yes. Kelso needs industry. With industry comes family wage jobs. We need those. We need to be able to support our families without social services. So putting any of those in there at some point would be, like I said before, would give us a small port. Kelso would have their own port. They may be small, but it's a possibility. I live right along the railroad tracks, so I have to say, a coal wouldn't be a problem for me. I mean, I've always lived near the tracks with all growing up, and I've never had an issue with coal trains. And I see them 3 times a day come through my neighborhood. So any of the industries that bring family wage jobs to Kelso, I would support, because we need those jobs. We need the industry. We need economic development.
Thank you. Any additional words or comments or rebuttal?
Yeah, if you consider the potential for jobs, one of the things I would look at, though, in supporting that is I would look at maximizing the number of jobs that you can get in essentially per acre. And I would discourage something that maybe just had a few jobs if there was an opportunity for something like a methanol plant that's going to have a significant number of family wage jobs. Those are the kind of jobs that people in Cowlitz County are used to operating. We have a large pool of people that are used to working in industry and manufacturing, used to working 24/7, and that gives us an advantage. Those are the kind of jobs we need to look at. But again, certainly supporting industry that would bring good quality jobs and the highest number of jobs is important for Rankin development.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander, any additional comments? Or? Next question, even numbered, so this will be directed first at Mrs. Alexander. What would you do to increase voter awareness and civic involvement in Kelso?
Well, I believe that going out and meeting with the people and talking to the people, knocking on doors is how you do that. I have done voter registrations in the past. I believe that going out into the public and volunteering and being part of the community behind the scenes, I don't need acknowledgement for the things I do. I just do them. So I believe that going out, shaking hands, knocking on doors, and talking to the people and finding out, why. Why are they not voting? Why are they not registered? Here's your registration form. All you have to do is fill it out. I will turn it in for you. I've done that before, so I know what that means, and I was very disappointed in the turnout. And so I'm going to volunteer soon. We're getting one ready right now to do another voter registration. So with the South Kelso Neighborhood Association. So I would like to, just like I said, be out there in the public with the people, talking to them, and I think that's the best way to get people involved and show them you care. That helps, that makes them realize that maybe they should care and bring back our Kelso pride.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Karnofski.
Well, I recognize a couple of teachers in the audience, and really for getting people involved in civic activities, you need to start early. Grade school is not too early to start. You need to get to the grade school, take the kids out, you need to talk to them about elections. They can have mock elections for presidential elections. Many grade schools have mock elections. Then through the middle school and the high school, you need to go in where you have the opportunity, talk to the students, let them know the importance of community service, let them know the importance of making sure that they vote. As they turn 18, you can have a sign up there to get them signed up to voter. It also is getting out in the community, to community meetings and to community activities, to talk about what the city is doing, what the opportunities are. If you look at, it's not just voting, there's a variety of boards that the city has, that the county has, and you can get out and you can talk to people about serving on those boards. Find out what's interested in them. If you can get them serving on the boards, then they're more likely to be involved and more likely to vote. So it's start early and getting out into the community to make sure that people understand the importance of voting and the opportunities that there are to serve the community.
Thank you. Any additional comments or rebuttal?
Well, as for the youth, that's one of the things I definitely have promoted. My grandkids go and do almost everything I volunteer. I take them with me because they've learned. I have 2 5-year-old grandkids and 2 9-year-old grandkids. They do not know how to take in a parade. All they know how to do is give. They know how to get out and pull weeds. They go and talk to the neighbors and help. So yes, the youth you need to start early. You need to work with your children and get out there with them. Take them with you. Take them out there. Show them what who the people are. And again, my grandkids even help us vote. They want to help fill out our ballots. They think that's about the neatest thing ever, is to let them fill in that square and know that they voted. And whether they voted or we voted, it still means a lot to them that they got to do it. So.
Thank you. Any additional comments or rebuttal?
Nope.
Next question will go first to Mr. Karnofski. What can we do to further promote the airport in Kelso?
Well, I think the airport is another underutilized asset, and I talk about a lot of a lot about underutilized assets. Kelso has a lot of them. Kelso has made good utilization of some, but I think the airport is important to Kelso. And if you look at the improvement of the airport, there's been significant improvement of the airport through the support of the Port of Longview, the City of Longview, Kelso. Certainly the commissioners have spent over $500,000 in rural economic development funds supporting that. And I think you've seen a significant change in the airport with all the hangars being leased. And they now have some money. They're going to do a cleanup of the west side of the airport. We have a great airport manager. We're getting have a business there, Life Flight. There are businesses that are interested in that, and having that airport is, again, a key to economic development. There are companies that come here. There's been companies that have flown in their executives to the Kelso airport to look at a project in Cowlitz County. So having a strong, healthy airport is one of the keys to economic development in Kelso and to Cowlitz County as a whole.
Thank you. Same question, Mrs. Alexander?
Okay, I grew up in South Kelso, so I grew up right by the airport. I grew up watching air shows. There used to be air shows at that airport when I was a kid, and it was absolutely phenomenal to watch. We need to bring that back. That would be wonderful. It would be really wonderful if we could extend our runway so we could get in just slightly bigger airplanes. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, that there is personal property that is at the end that would need to be bought, and there's people that want to hang on to their property, and that is what, from my knowledge, that is what's stopping the extension of the runway. They've been talking about that. I cannot even remember when it wasn't being talked about. The new hangars, that is wonderful. Taking down the old, putting in the new. We're getting, we need to utilize what we have and maybe possibly in the future figure out a way to extend it, to get grants to fix it, to get more people in there and more use of our airport. But I think air shows, again, I think that would be a great thing to have again, because it brings families out and it brings families together. And again, that would be another event that brought people into Kelso.
Thank you. Additional comments or rebuttal? Any additional comments? Next question will be sent first to Mrs. Alexander. City operating budgets involve a variety of funds, many of them dedicated to a specific purpose, together with the competing interest of many departments. In your view, what should be the highest priorities in City of Kelso budgeting?
Public safety. Making sure that working with our police department, making sure they have adequate staffing and the tools they need to promote or protect our people and our community. We have one of the best police departments ever. They take the time they're out there fighting crime, they take their time, they work well with disabled, they know how to be different variety of people, they know how to handle the situations, and yet they still take the time to stop and see a child on the street and hand them a sticker just because the child smiled at them. They're wonderful. We need to work on, we need to better our streets and sidewalks. That's another big issue. I think those are the top things that we need. Is public safety, though, is our biggest one, and we need to protect our citizens and our community.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Karnofski. Would you like me to repeat?
Sure.
City operating budgets involve a variety of funds, many of them dedicated to a specific purpose, together with the competing interests of many departments. In your view, what should be the highest priorities in City of Kelso budgeting?
Well, it's definitely the health and safety of the citizens. Certainly the police force is key to the safety of the citizens, but also you need to have safe streets. Don't have a lot of potholes. You need safe sidewalks where people can walk safely. And it also, if you look at the health side, you need sewers that don't leak. I know there's areas in Kelso where you can see where they have had leaky sewers. We need to make sure we clean those up. But to do all that, you also need a strong tax base, and that's one thing Kelso has lacked for a long time, and that gets back to economic development, to having areas where we can do economic development. We've talked about the airport, we've talked about Anchor Point. The City Council has looked at the annexation of South Kelso around the airport to provide more commercial property. So, and again, there are restricted funds. The police come out of the general fund. Some of the other funds can be used for economic development. So you need to look at all your funds, you need to look at which are restricted funds, but health and safety is key, but they also need to look at the opportunities and how they're going to improve the tax base of Kelso.
Thank you. Additional comments or rebuttal? Any additional comments? Next question will go first to Mr. Karnofski. What does the term public servant mean to you?
To me, public servant is somebody that takes the time to look at what's needed in the community and look at what they can bring to the community and then match those two up. Not everybody necessarily wants to serve on the Civil Service Board, for example, which is one of them. The Park Board is a board that I served on for 26 years. We have a library board in the city. So it's being unselfish, spending your time in the community, working on those community activities that improve your community. It doesn't necessarily have to be a political entity either. It can be something like the College Economic Development Council, which I've been on for 20 years. It can be something like United Way, but it's serving your community, using your skills to the best of your ability, and making the community a better place.
Thank you. Same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No. Public servant to me means somebody that goes out and gives their time to the public. They listen to the people, they hear the people, and they do their best to do what's best for their community. They volunteer. They go out, they clean up. When there's cleanups needed, they're there. When there's food needed, they're there. You're there to serve the public. You are there to be what the public needs you to be. So I don't believe city council is a job. I believe it's a privilege, just like a public servant. It is a privilege. You're doing what the people need you to do to better serve the community.
Thank you. Any additional comments or rebuttal?
Again, there's a variety of ways you can serve the community. Many people serve the community in youth sports or youth activities, youth volunteers, volunteering for Boy Scouts. So it's finding what you can do to help your community using the skills that you have, and everybody has different skills and different interests, and matching those up and being an asset to the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Alexander, any additional comments? Or? Next question, even numbered. We'll go first to Mrs. Alexander. How do you feel about the syringe exchange continuing to operate in Kelso?
It is a hard one. I believe that the syringe exchange enables addicts. I spoke out against it as I have family members that have been addicts, and I don't want them enabled. I believe that when the people or the community came together and spoke and asked it to be shut down, I believe that it should have been shut down. I don't agree where it's at. Kelso doesn't need any more enabling factors. We need treatment centers for the addicts, not more enabling. We don't need to keep finding needles. We should not have to worry if we go to a park or an area if our children or grandchildren are going to step on a needle. It's just not right. It's littering our community. They don't break down, so they're everywhere. And you have to clean them up. They don't just like disintegrate. They don't disappear unless you pick them up and clean them up. They're there. I believe that it's wrong. I just do not believe that enabling addicts helps them to get clean. I think it enables them to continue the use of an illegal drug instead of helping them get clean off of those illegal drugs.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Karnofski.
So the needle exchange program had certainly fallen on some, I guess, disrepute. But I think you need some kind of program. The statistics that I've seen show that there is an advantage to the needle exchange as far as eliminating some of the diseases that can be transported. Even if the comment about needles, I don't know that the needle exchange directly relates to needles in the community. We had needles in the community before we had a needle exchange. It's getting those people into treatment. If a needle exchange gets them into treatment, that's great. And I've had people who have had families who participated in needle exchanges, and needle exchanges help them.
Mrs. Alexander, rebuttal or additional comments?
I was at the meetings. The health department could not come up with any numbers on whether or not the needle exchange was actually stopping the spread of disease. They gave out 900,000 needles last year alone. And when you average between that and the 834 addicts they were serving, it came out at 115 needles a minute they were giving out. They're only open on Fridays, they were only open up for 2.5 hours on a Friday. They were giving out 115 needles a minute and had no record of how many even came in. So the needles were everywhere, because they had no regard. They didn't have to exchange them. A needle exchange, that word was a joke. They could just take the needles or go in and say, I need this many, and they would give them to them. They didn't ask for any in return. It was an oversight. It was, our children are at risk. We shouldn't have to worry about those diseases they're trying to prevent. I shouldn't have to worry about my grandchildren in a park catching something from one of those needles or getting, even there's residue. What if they had an overdose because they stepped on a needle that had residue in it? Why should my grandkids why should I have to worry? I didn't have to worry for my children. I now have to worry for my grandchildren, and that's not right.
Additional comments or rebuttal?
As I said, it was clear the needle exchange program wasn't well run. But a well-run needle exchange program can be a benefit to the community. And again, the fact that you have or don't have a needle exchange doesn't change the fact that you're going to have needles in public areas. Even if we didn't have a needle exchange, those people that use needles will use them in public areas, and we found needles in public areas prior to having a needle exchange.
Thank you. Sounds like probably our final question of the evening will be directed first at Mr. Karnofski. Would you support a tax increase to care for some of Kelso's needs?
No, I wouldn't support a tax increase. Like I said, I've reviewed the financials. I think Kelso, due to the city council and the city management, has done a good job. I think we're pretty well balanced now. I also think that Kelso has done an excellent job of using outside funding sources. You look at the work they've done on West Main for outside funding sources. That's a big improvement. You look at the money they've gotten from the Rural Economic Development Funds to improve the airport and work on the longer runway. So I don't think we need a tax increase. What we continue to need to do is look at the opportunity for outside funding sources such as the CURB, the Transportation Improvement Board. There's a variety of funding sources out there, And it's one of the things I've been able to learn more about as being the Public Works Director at the City of Woodland is the availability of funding sources that can be used for the improvements in Kelso.
Thank you. Same question. Would you like me to repeat it? Or?
No, I would definitely, at this point especially, not support a tax increase. Most of Kelso lives below poverty level, and another tax increase would just hurt them more. We don't need any more homeless. We don't need any more. We need to fix, and we need to work with what we have to better our community, work through grants and even donations, or however we work through donations on other things. I'm sure Kelso can figure out how to get donations for things as well. A tax increase would hurt our citizens more, and I want to help our citizens, not hurt them.
Thank you. Additional comments or rebuttal on that? Any additional comments? We will now move on to closing statements. First up will be Mr. Karnofski. 3 minutes for closing.
So again, if you look at the considerations, 2? Okay, you're waving your hand over there with 2s. All right. So if you look at those characteristics, and I talked about those characteristics of what makes a good candidate and what they can bring to the community. I've talked about the characteristics. I think I've shown through my answers that I can bring leadership and management to the community. And I think that's important. I'm familiar certainly with the community, living here all but about 6 years of my 68 years. So I know the community. I've seen the community come from a really vibrant community living in West Kelso. And like I said, at one time, West Kelso was a community in itself. It had 5 grocery stores. It had 4 gas stations. Unfortunately, it also was known for its 13 taverns. But it was a vibrant community. Downtown Kelso was a vibrant community. So I understand what Kelso was. Kelso's never going to go back and be the same. So we have to look forward, and you have to ask yourself, who's better prepared to provide the leadership, to work with the community, who has an understanding of where to find some of the funds that the community can use, who can work with the departments, who understands what the departments are facing, whether it's the street department, the sewer department, to talk to the businesses, to represent Kelso in economic development. Those are the things that I bring as a candidate, and that's why I believe I'm the best candidate for the position, and I would appreciate your support and votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Alexander, a closing statement.
The true measure of qualifications and readiness and the limitless test of character of any citizen who runs for public office is what they do in their community when nobody is watching. As a longtime elected politician, my opponent is well-known adversarial bully, a person who is quick to take credit for anything good and places blame on others for laundry lists of failures. He brags about his accomplishments, yet I would be embarrassed to hold the resume of the strikeouts he has on low-barrier shelters, the needle exchange oversight, the veto on coal, the problems of 911, and spending $250,000 on love-overwhelming building without a plan, just to name a few. The disasters are many, yet he is back unapologetically asking for your vote again. Our differences are stark. Nobody questions my commitment to my community. Everybody knows I have 2 ears, and I use both of them. Everyone knows I act on what I hear. I ask great questions. I get involved where help is needed. I do all of this when nobody is keeping score, because it's the right thing to do. It's on those qualifications and characters that I ask for your vote. I have always been there for you. Now I'm asking you to be there for me. Vote Lisa Knight Alexander for Kelso City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I noted as I was looking at my notes is I forgot at the very beginning to say that we had Lisa Knight Alexander and Mike Karnofski, and they're running for Kelso City Council position number 2. It might help to know what position they're running for when they go through all this. Special thank you to Ken Botero. I get part of the credit and I get the easy part. I get to sit up here and moderate the things and work on the format that we have come together. I appreciate Ken organizing all this. Thank you also to the media that's here tonight. I know we have a reporter from the Daily News. We have online presence as well with Mr. Hunter, and Dwayne is filming for KLTV. I appreciate that because we don't always have a large audience, but thanks to the media, we usually get the message out, and I appreciate that. The biggest thank you would, of course, go to Mr. Karnofski and Mrs. Alexander. It is difficult putting yourself forward into any kind of a race. We have some people out here that have been in that position before, and that's difficult. I appreciate that. Upcoming debates next Monday night, September 18th, also back here, 7 o'clock. Kelso City Council, position number 3, Gary Archer and Kim, is it Lefebvre?
Lefebvre.
I'm going to have to work on that pronunciation, and I should be better at that given the way my name is spelled, and people can do that. But the following Monday after that, on September 25th, also here, Longview City Council, position number 6, Chet McKinster and Diane Quast. The Wednesday of that same week at 7 o'clock, September 27th, also here at Canterbury Park, is Longview City Council position number 5, Mary Alice Wallace and Megan Ritchie. We have additional debates beyond that, but I don't want to bore you with the schedule because it is a pretty extensive list. And finally, before we close, I neglected to mention last week, evaluations are very important to me. I think we've developed this format because of feedback that we've taken and we've built on and improved our format. I think we've got a good format to give candidates a chance to express their views. But if you can think of anything else that we can improve on, I know I personally would like to hear that, and I believe Ken would as well, so we could continue to improve that. With that, thank you. Thank you to the candidates.